Welcome to the Acceptable Accuracy Podcast. My name is Philip, and my co-host tonight is the one and only returning from bus fires, sickness, and about to go on vacation again is...
What's up, everyone? It's Tyler, and yes, it's been a July. It's been a
You,
wild ride for
you know
sure.
we're into August now, right?
No, I know. Well, I'm saying now that
Okay.
we're in August, I'm saying my July. I looked back and I thought to myself, dude, like I was gone pretty much 3 quarters of July. I was in Hawaii for 2 weeks, and then I was at camp for a week, and then I was sick for like a week. So I feel like my summer has just flown by, and now we're finally in August.
Which is
So
crazy to me because it still feels like July. I mean,
it
obviously
really
we're not
does.
too deep into August, but man, I'll tell you, summer goes by so fast. Kids are going back to school here in a couple weeks, so that'll be interesting.
I think some schools have already started.
That
I
that's just
know.
wrong.
I know. Well, so I was chatting with one of my buddies who works at the summer camp that our church goes to, and they had their final week last week, and they said it was like I think they said it was like record lows because some schools had already started.
That is wild to me. Like I
Yeah,
don't.
the last week of July, some schools started.
We used to have a law here in Michigan that you could not start school until after. I always get Labor Day and Memorial Day mixed up.
It'd be Labor Day because
Thank you.
Memorial Day
That's right,
typically is
because
what
Labor Day is September.
starts.
I don't
Yeah.
know why. Anyway,
No,
calendaring
it
is
clicked for me
hard.
last year, finally, or
Yep.
a year or two ago. It's like Memorial Day kicks off summer, Labor Day
Yep.
ends summer.
Yeah. For some reason, I always get the two mixed up. But we used to have a law in Michigan that required if you were going to go back to school, you could not start until after Labor Day because Michigan is very much a obviously we have a lot of industry in Michigan, but tourism is pretty large, and a lot of families would go on their kind of last hurrah on the Labor Day weekend, the long
hmm
weekend.
Yep.
So they actually changed that, and you used to have to get permission to reopen a school prior to Labor Day, but now I don't think you have to anymore. Most schools do, but I do think that it is required that you have to have that Friday off prior to Labor Day, and then obviously getting Monday off for Labor Day as well.
hmm
So that way it does make it a long weekend and allows for more travel for those cities and municipalities north of us who get a lot of our money for going to visit them
hmm
as the last hurrah for the summer.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, I'm going to let you kind of kick off the name of this episode, Tyler. But before we get into the subject, I wanted to bring up something that happened to a friend of mine.
Okay.
Um, so go ahead and cover what we're going to talk about today, what the actual topic is, so that people can be enticed to continue to listen.
Yeah, for sure. So it's on. Before I even do that, I'm going to address the one thing that you mentioned about a bus fire. I feel like for people who have no idea what we're talking about,
I
you
brought up
kind of
last
just said
podcast
it,
too,
and
by the
we're
way.
just keep on going. People are like, "Wait, bus fire? What are you talking about?" So if you're I was like July 21st or 22nd, we rented a charter bus and we pay a company to drive us up. I'm not going to say their name for now, unless they wrong us, but essentially what had happened was we were about 30 minutes away from the camp. I drove separately and I get a phone call from our deacon, one of our youth leaders, saying, "Tyler, the bus is on fire, the kids are out, we're all safe." I turn around and I drive back about in between Lake City and Home Lake, and our bus caught on fire. And it was probably like a 10, 15 foot flame. Smoke is everywhere. The bus is engulfed, and the back quarter of the bus is completely burned down. And I get there before any first responders. So long story short, the bus caught on fire. The fire department from both cities or towns show up, take it out, and the kids are all safe. The luggage, somehow miraculously, the majority of it was safe. I mean, it was covered in diesel fuel and smoke fumes, but they were usable. So all that to say, we survived a bus fire. So that was end of my July. So now that I got you in that hook, I'm actually going to explain what today's episode is, which is simply concealed carry positions. How we had a concealed carry episode probably a few weeks ago, and now we're going to talk, kind of get more, a little more nitty gritty on how, because everyone carries their gun differently, and that's okay, but how and why do we do that? So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
When you said concealed carry positions, the first thing that came to mind, and I don't know why, was like a way that you would stand or like a yoga pose, like downward facing dog. And I was like,
You
what?
know,
What? What?
I like Warrior One specifically. That's probably my favorite yoga. Actually, no, 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 no. Mine is like the baby pose where you just lie down flat on your stomach with your head to your side and you just do nothing.
Isn't that called like sleeping?
No, I think that's called like I can't remember. It was like some P90. I remember doing like the P90X yoga, and that's what it was. That may or may not be what it's called, but that's what I'm gonna call it. The where you're just lying down is like, ugh. But
I,
all that to say, so you had a story for us?
yeah. So, okay. Because this is semi pertinent and it was top of mind, and you don't hear about this stuff a lot. So there was a guy that I went to high school with, and mind you, I'm a little older. So it was many years ago. But
Hmm.
through the magic of Facebook, read about this story, and in the middle of the night last night, he had his front door kicked down,
Oh,
like bashed in, right? And the weird thing was that the person that kicked the door in, and then left.
what?
Yes, that's what makes it strange. So nothing happened. Family is all fine. Door is like all jacked up and is going to have to be replaced, as well as possibly the door frame. Not not a great situation. But
Hmm.
on his post, he mentioned that he's up going to be up all night, basically grabbing onto his 9 iron and like wondering what's going to happen next,
Yep.
because obviously that's going to put you on edge.
Oh
Now
yeah.
the interesting thing is that he doesn't live that far away from where I live, and our neighborhood, we have like some petty crime, like any neighborhood does. There's some transient traffic. A lot of it is people leaving their car unlocked at night. People go through and they're looking for prescription drugs. We've had
Hmm.
people that have actually had their cars rummaged through. They've had cash sitting out. The cash was left, and everything else is left in the car. But which is really interesting, they're just looking for prescription drugs.
Hmm.
But he had mentioned that he's a little bit down the road and maybe a little closer to an apartment complex, which, depending on the apartment complex, trailer home, park that he's also by too, there's a lot of stigmatism that comes with that. He lives in a house, but they have to be surrounded by them, and it tends to, not all of them, but they tend to attract some trouble, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so he was saying that there have been like cars, like windows smashed in, tires slashed. He was saying that somebody borrowed his car at one point and like must have brought it back. I think I remember. I don't remember the story perfectly, but just nothing crazy like having your door bashed in, right? So I messaged him and I said, and because I don't ever advertise this on Facebook, but I was like, hey, if you're ever curious and learning about potentially using a firearm, blah blah blah. And he kind of messaged back. We had a conversation about how he had a CPL at one point, was a firearms owner, is not currently today, and then was talking about something we've talked about in the past too, where if somebody does break into your house, it is not worth your it's not worth it to stop, like, to shoot somebody over stuff,
No.
right? And we've talked about this before. Um, but there is a line, right? And based on your home and where your kids are, and I assume if you're married, you're probably in the same room, unless like it's at night and they're down playing video games or something. But there's obviously a line, right? Is that somebody's in your house, you don't necessarily know what their intentions are,
Hmm.
especially at night. And what is it that you always say about like home break-ins, Tyler, when people are there?
Yeah, I mean, typically the vast majority of home break-ins occur during the day when people are at work. If someone is breaking into your house at night, the majority of the time it's because they have a vendetta towards you or they have a target on you. And they usually come in packs. So I guess I don't know enough of this situation because this is my first time hearing this as well. So
Yeah.
that's why
Yep.
it's really weird to me that someone would kick down the door and then just leave. So, I mean, my gut instinct is telling me maybe the person could be upset, angry, so just wanted to kick the door. Or maybe they were targeting the person and they were hoping that they would chase after them, trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. I
So
and
I don't really know.
this individual is like pretty chill.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that anyone would have a vendetta against them. No, I don't. I mean, I don't know their life intimately, but like not a malicious type person, right?
yeah,
Works in the IT industry. You know, we tend to be pretty chill for the most part. Um, so I don't know. And then I also my mind went to like somebody on drugs
yeah.
and or this is my only other thought on this. And I don't know, and I'll have to talk to him at some point about it. And I should have asked in advance. Maybe they knocked the door down, assuming there was nobody home, and then maybe they flicked a light on, or they made a noise, or something like that,
Hmm.
and they did not expect somebody to be home, and they ran off.
Yeah, maybe that's a possibility. I mean, do you know? You said it was at night, right?
Yeah, it was in the middle of the night.
Which I mean, I guess when you say middle of the night, do you mean like 8 p.m. or like midnight?
So it was 20 hours ago,
Okay,
roughly, and it's like
so
9:30 ish right now.
okay, so it was at like 6, 7 o'clock or whatever. So I guess well, 4 hours behind now. We're at it was like 5:30,
So
right?
yeah, sure. I have to do the math on that. Is that terrible that I don't know?
Well,
So three,
because 20 hours
yeah,
ago, because it's 9:30 right now. 24 hours ago, 9:30 subtract four, five
yeah, you're
thirty.
right. Okay,
So, can you tell Asian bro?
yeah. It,
So, so it's like, I mean, yeah, I guess that could be end of the day. So probably someone's thinking like, once again, that could you could be right. Someone is trying to break into the home, try to just get stuff, real hoping no one was home, but because someone was, they're like, I'm booking it because they realize someone's actually at home.
okay,
So
Tyler, real quick, I want to check you on your math here. It was 1:27 a.m. 20 hours ago.
20 hours ago.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
It's
I
really
went the
bad because
wrong
I
way.
get my mind. Okay, so
I went the wrong way.
to
You're
our
right.
credit, this sounds really bad. Where it sounds like we're a bunch of imbeciles, but both Tyler and I are coming off of being sick, and my brain is still in a fog, and I just got done
Yep.
working about
You
an
are
hour
right.
ago.
Yep.
So
My Asian math was wrong. Yes,
so
you
it
are
was.
right.
I was like, this is not
It's
5:30. That
nope,
can't be
you're right.
right.
It's
Like something was not
4 hours.
registering
You're
in my
right. You're
brain.
right. You're right. You're
I
right.
went,
It will
yeah,
be 4 hours ahead because it's
yeah,
9:30
yeah, yeah, yeah,
plus 4 hours. Okay, I went
yeah.
the wrong way. I went
So
I
truly in the
was
middle of the
thinking
night.
yes, okay, never mind. So 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, you were right. That is 1:30 in the morning. That make okay. Okay, I have
Um,
no idea then. Why the heck is someone just breaking into a house at 1:30 in the morning?
exactly. Maybe not expecting somebody home. I don't know.
That well, I mean, once again, there's so many different factors. Like you look at, I think we, no, we didn't talk about this in our home defense video, but when Phil and I, when we led a home defense event at our church, we did talk about how there are a couple different things that you can do to, when it comes to a home invasion, even before home defense, being proactive, such as like putting up a sign saying you have a home security system,
Yep,
having
a dog.
a dog, having bushes or like trees or shrubs or whatever surrounding different windows, or even just keeping lights on at night. You're adding little things to make your house harder to be a harder target because bad guys, they profile homes. They really do. So when they're looking at a home, they're thinking, is this a home that's an easy target?
Hmm.
So maybe his home looked like an easy target to them, or maybe had signs that no one was home, like you're saying. So,
Yeah, and he even admitted too that like he's like I don't want to live in a fortress was like something he said,
mhm,
and maybe not having as much of a hardened house as he like or what we would have thought should have, right? And I
mhm.
know he's going to listen to this, and this is not criticism at all. It's
No.
just a different outlook on life, right? Like I didn't grow up in the greatest neighborhood, and we used to get stuff stolen all the time.
Oh wow.
So like I have my bike stolen, dude. Like as a like a 12-year-old, that's devastating.
Oh, for sure.
So we were always very cognizant at night to we actually lived down the street from a pretty big drug dealer. That's a whole nother story for another time.
That's
Anyway,
hilarious.
and it all hit the news after we moved out. It was this big thing. Anyway, so
Yeah. I mean, I had my
I
bike stolen when I was 17.
dang dude, man,
Yeah.
I didn't realize we had that in common.
Well, the
But so
difference is mine got stolen at work.
oh, that's fair.
I was working at McDonald's this summer after I graduated high school, and it was a week before I left for college, and I locked my bike outside, and I finished work. I got outside, and I'm like, "Where'd my bike go?" So I called my dad. He picked me up, and we literally drove for like an hour looking around for my bike to see if someone's like if it was like out and about, and we never found it. It was like a mongoose bike, and I missed
That's
that
a nice,
bike. It was a good
it's a nice
bike.
bike. Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
no, I
You should
remember.
get
I
another
love
one.
that bike. Huh?
You should get another one. We'll
I'm
go bike riding.
yeah, bro. I wouldn't
Um,
mind. I'll admit, after I went to Mackinac Island last fall, like I was like, man, I kind of want to get a bike, but I never did because I kind of forgot
M-
about it. I spend too much money on guns and plants now. So
Mongoose, please sponsor us.
yeah, please, that'd be
Um,
great.
so anyway, I guess my question is, and all of this is my question is, sorry, real quick, I'm going to step back. Having grown up in the area where there was a lot of concern and a lot of like crimes and stuff like that in the neighborhood I grew up, I always grew up locking my house, making sure the garage was closed at night,
Hmm.
making sure that the cars were locked. I even locked my car in the garage.
Hmm.
Um, that kind of stuff, right? Double checking locks. I own dogs. My brother said I love dogs, and they're the best, and they have souls.
Unlike cats,
Unlike cats. Anyway, my question
cats
about this
do
whole
not
thing is,
sponsor us.
you know, my question about this whole thing is for you, Tyler. What would you do in this situation? So it's 1:27 at night, 1:32 at night in the morning, right? I should say in the morning, and you hear somebody kicking down your door. What are you gonna do? What's the first thing you're gonna do? And I mean even beyond like grabbing the firearm next to you.
So when you say what would I do, would you say like what would I do now personally in my own home, or
Yeah.
what would I do if I was in his shoes as a husband with multiple kids in that neighborhood?
So I'll have you answer that with like being like a single dude that you are, and it's you're at your house
Okay.
because my
First thing,
perspective will obviously be different.
yeah. First thing I would do is I would check my security cameras.
So you wouldn't grab your firearm.
I probably would. I mean, the thing is, it's right next to me, so I'd
Yep.
probably grab. I mean, you said besides grabbing my firearm.
I know. I'm sorry. I guess I should have meant including that part. Like
Oh
from a
yeah,
logistics perspective, what are you doing? What are you doing?
oh, for sure. I mean, I would grab my AR, and then because I'm a single person, and I've spoken about this before, one man's CQB is the worst thing you can do tactically. And you can talk to any person who does CQB, and they will 100% agree with you. If you're in a situation where you don't need to clear a home by yourself, don't. Now, because I'm by myself, I don't need to clear my house. I would grab my gun, I would make sure my doors are locked. If my curtains are usually already closed anyway, I would close those as well. And then I would kind of bunker myself in a corner and then pull up my cameras and see what's going on. Because in theory, by then, you're not going to get to any of my doors without my cameras picking you up. So I'm going to see if you actually broke in and if you're in my home.
Right.
And then if you and then I've established that someone actually did break into my home or broke a door or tried to enter my home, I'm calling 911 and I'm just going to say someone's breaking into my house and I can't remember. This is the one part where should I tell them that I probably should. I'll say that I have a firearm and I am in a corner in my room. That's probably all I'm going to say. I'm not and I'm gonna protect myself. I'll probably give them a description of myself, so this way, if police sees me, they won't shoot me. So,
Right.
and then that's probably about it. Then I'll just hang up because I know people will say like, no, you should always say on dispatch. I'm like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to give them too much information that might criminalize me, incriminate me, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
that's at least that's how I was trained. That's how I was taught in my CPL class, at least, to just tell them what's going on and then just hang up. This way, I'm not giving them too much information. So now I'll just bunker and just wait. So that's really about it. And if he breaks into my
Hmm.
room and or they, because once again, if someone's breaking into my house and they actually are inside my house, they're looking for me.
Right.
So that's where I would have to wait and just see and then kind of just go from there. And if they break in and they break in my door, I'm firing. Because at that point, they have established that they are, at that point, doing this imagery or scenario in my head, they have made the decision to break into my room, and now my life is in danger. If they are only trying to steal stuff, they can steal stuff. That's fine. That's what insurance is for.
Yeah, exactly. And this is not legal advice, by the
No,
way.
of course not.
We always
This
give
is
that
what I will
disclaimer.
personally do in this
Yep.
hypothetical situation. In my personal
Yeah.
self right now. As of right now of August 9th of 2024.
For me, it's a little bit different because I've got a
Exactly.
family.
Your context is so different than me.
It is, and it not even just from the fact that I have a family, but even like the layout of my home
Mhm.
is different. I have children, I have a wife, and I have dogs.
Yep.
So if somebody's breaking in my house, I hear it wake up. The first thing I got to do, because we've talked about this in previous episode, like because I am in Michigan and I legally have to keep my firearms locked up, and I get into my case. First thing, like 100%, because I'm not going to step out in a hallway and like run into somebody potentially with a weapon, right, and not being
Mhm.
prepared. So that's not a ton of time. Um, and I know the layout of my house, the rough distances to get from point A to point B, realizing unless somebody's been in my house before, like how are they going to be able to realize where we're at, and that kind of stuff. So that's definitely the first thing that I am going to do. If my my wife's home, definitely going to be a wake, make sure she's awake and dialing 911 because there's two of us. That
Mhm.
gives me an advantage there, right?
It does.
So,
That helps you a lot.
yep. And then firearm. And so actually I sleep my door open intentionally so I can hear everything in the house. And our
Yep.
largest dog actually sleeps on the floor in our room. So I love my dog to death, but he has a job to do. And if that door was open and he hears something, I know what he's going to do. He's going to go run down and find out what the heck is going on. He's going to bark his fool head off at the like worst case scenario,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And he's a very intelligent dog. I don't know what else he would do. Because obviously dogs are able to sense emotion, as their sense of smell, even like is so keen that they can tell when somebody's like stressed out, when or, whatever they can figure out what's going on pretty quickly. So I'm
Mhm.
going to let him do his thing, right? And then obviously my biggest challenge is now it's me in my room, and I've had my wife is in there. She can grab a firearm if she wants to defend herself, but I have to get my kids. So I'd have to step out in the hall. Fortunately, we're all on the same level as a higher level in the house. So I'd step out in the hall and I'd have to go get them, right? And then obviously I'm not going to give too many information about my house, but I have to figure out which kid to grab first, in what
Yep.
order, and then I would bring them back into our bedroom, right? And again, I'm going to let my dogs out. They're going to do their thing. They're going to do their job, right? And
Exactly.
the hope is that if it is an intruder and they're there just to steal stuff, they're not going to want anything to do with dogs, and they're going to be gone, right? But in the case if they're not, if they're there to do something else, like those dogs are going to be a distraction to them.
Oh, big time. Even if they
Um,
slow them down by like 10
right.
seconds.
Yep. So that's their job. We've got more than one dog, and one of
Yeah,
them is
oh
a very
yeah.
large. One of them is a very large dog. So that's their job. And make sure my family's grab family, bring them in the room, and then obviously wife's on 911. Wait till the cops arrive. I don't know. I mean, I would do the same thing. Alert them. I'm armed, right? And then I'm obviously covering the entry to the room, right? I don't. And at that point, I don't know if I'd close the door or not,
I would close the door.
like because then you can't see them coming.
It's true, but at the same time, most bad guys won't even shoot through doors.
Yeah, I would just. I don't know. That's a tough one. I had to think about. I had to noodle on that one for a bit and maybe do some research on it.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I would do. Again, to the Tyler's point and the point of the gentleman too, no one's life is worth stuff. And
No.
I say that from the life of the individual potentially thieving, and then the mental and like suffering that not only if somebody like myself or my wife takes somebody's life, or and then the fact that that would happen in the house with the kids, and that's something that you're gonna have to live with the rest of your life. So
Hmm. So this might be a morbid question, but have you gone through the hypothetical? Of course, someone breaks into your home, your dog's going after them, and then them taking out your dogs.
yeah, I mean it's tough. I do treat my dogs. If you know me, I treat my dogs like
I
family. Like
understand
they
that.
they have like
Mhm.
couch rights and
Oh yeah,
end of bed
they have
rights
bed
and chair
rights.
rights and all that stuff. Yeah, they are family. But again, they do have a job, and
So,
I
mhm.
do prioritize my children and my wife over my dogs.
Oh, 100%. And I guess my question for you as well is, what about your family in that sense? Would they be ready? Do they understand that in that situation, it is your dog's job to stop/slow down the intruders?
Yeah, that's actually an
I
interesting
I only
conversation.
say that because I understand because you do have kids that I know how much they love your dogs. I don't I My brain is thinking that if they hear your dog's in pain, they might rush out for to your dogs.
That's fair. That's legitimate. Um, I've thought about this logistically too, because if I have to get my
Mhm.
kids, I can't. There's no way I can not stop my dog from running around, like running downstairs.
Of course, which I mean, truthfully,
It's
your dog
impossible.
should.
Yep. And I can try calling them back, but they're not going to come back
No,
because they're very like all three of them are very defensive of the family, like
as
in a
they
good
should
way. They're
be.
very friendly to
Hmm.
people, but they like anytime like Ryan and I will joke around the house and chase each other around the house with foam swords. The one of our dogs especially will come and like nip at the swords. He does not like anything, even though we're just goofing around, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a great question,
Yeah.
and
So,
it is, and I think
mhm.
they would appreciate what the dogs would do for them.
Oh, of course, yeah. And something that I've learned when it comes to not even just home defense, but any situation that causes you to get high adrenaline when you get into that fight or flight or freeze or even fawn situation is that even having a plan ahead of time will be very helpful if it's something that you've never experienced before. I remember my very first car accident. It was, long story short, it was bumper to bumper traffic, and a semi truck rear ended a SUV, which rear ended a pickup truck, which rear ended me. I remember getting rear ended and thinking, I just got hit. And I literally, Phil, no kidding. I moved forward a foot, stopped, moved, stopped, moved, stopped. And I did that probably 5 times because I
Hmm,
thought to myself, like, what do I do? Because I didn't know what to do at that point because I have
right.
so much adrenaline in that situation. The car didn't have much damage, but it was enough adrenaline to where I did not know what to do. So I kept freezing. I was literally going back and forth between fight and freeze. It was weird, man. So,
Yeah, and
but
we are arm check. We are armchair quarterbacking this whole thing
oh, for sure.
because we were not put into this situation,
No. Well,
right?
and
And a
that's and,
lot of people
mhm.
tend to freeze. Like that's to your point,
I get it. And that's why I'm saying because of that, unfortunately, I've had 3 car accidents since then, none of them my fault. But even after the first situation, my third car accident, I knew exactly what to do. I saw the car coming. I knew I couldn't stop. I knew the accident was going to happen. And literally, I remember in my head saying, I'm about to get into another accident. I got hit. And I literally went through like my checklist of this is what I need to do because I've been in a car accident. Call 911, just tell him the accident, hang up, assess the car, take pictures, go to his car, take pictures, talk to him. And I don't say anything to him, but if he wants to relay information to me, that's awesome too. But he doesn't need to. And then talking to the police officer, giving my statement, I already knew all of this. So, all that to say, my CPL instructor, who's actually an old friend of mine, he said, when it comes to home defense, and he's a veteran Marine, and he talks about how same thing with self defense situation. if you don't at least have a plan or have created scenarios in your head and have a checklist of things to do, most likely you're just going to freeze. So if you have at least have a
Right.
plan of attack, at least or a plan of action rather, you'll at least have you might get past that fight or flight. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So that's the only reason why I say that, kind of giving the car accident as like an analogy, a metaphor. So
Yeah.
once again, I don't know for sure what I would do in that. Of course, I'm looking back thinking like, okay, because of this situation, this is what I do. But at least for me, that's pretty much my plan anyway. If someone breaks into my house, that's what I'm gonna do. There was a situation one time where I thought my house was being broken into. Come to find out, I think it was like a massive tree branch that fell. So yeah. So I was like, okay. I mean, I did just that. I don't think I opened up my app, but I grabbed my gun. I was ready to go. I kind of hunkered myself for a little bit, and after I don't know, probably like 10 or 15 minutes, I did clear my house, and it was fine. So then I went along my merry way and went back to bed.
That's
So
funny.
well, because all my
Well,
doors were locked too. I was like, yeah, my house is fine. So
yeah, and again, we like I said earlier, like a second ago, we're armchair quarterbacking the crap out of this, right?
oh
Like I
yeah,
was not
big
in this
time.
situation, not been put in this situation. Um, it's really hard to prepare yourself for this. Obviously, Tyler and I shoot quite a bit, so accuracy is fundamental. You know, obviously, you're going to fire something in your house, but I bring that up. We do also shoot competitions, and while that is not the same, not
No.
correlating the two at all, right? But there is something to be said about stress inoculation, and how can you under the obviously when you're at home defense situation, there is a quote unquote clock, but it's not like a timer. But how do you perform when like the timer goes off? Like the first thing
Hmm.
people say when they're new is that like, and I still do this. Our last episode is evidence of this. Your head falls out of or your brain falls out of your head,
Hmm.
right? But it's how are you able to function under that level of stress, right? And realistically, if somebody's breaking your house, they're probably under a lot of stress as well, too, unless they're high on something, in which case it mutes that. But um,
Or they've done this multiple times before.
or they have them multiple times. They've got stress inoculation breaking into houses. Um, but there's something to be said, like putting yourself in stressful situations and getting used to functioning under stress, right? So, I mean, there's many ways of doing that, and there are it's hard. It's hard to train for that kind of stuff. Like how do you practice it other than like having a plan and like walking through it with your family?
I agree. I mean, the it's walking through your family, and then of course that's where even something as simple as maybe just have a buddy and scenario the crap out of it. Even if it's just with like Nerf guns or something, or even just BB guns, or I mean, it'd be cool if you have where those UTM's, those training ammo, but even just BB guns, like hey, like you, you once again, it's doing scenario based training. At least that's something. At least it kind of puts you in that mindset, like, okay, this is what I would do, and this is how I would do it.
It's like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
It's so true, man, and that's why, like, and that's where that type of training, like, I mean, you and I have talked. You know this. I would love to do force on force training because at least it puts me in that situation. Because, like, yeah, I'm definitely all for USPSA competitions, getting that stress inoculation, but that's not going to put me in that same adrenaline of like someone's about to shoot me. Even if it's a BB gun, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, I've done some airsoft. I would love to do like a Milsim West at some point
Oh, for
where
sure.
it's and obviously it's more like it's literally like military for those who didn't serve. Like I should say that it's like playing Call of Duty. Obviously, like people are like oh like you're not gonna be in the military. You're not gonna learn the military properly over like Milsim West weekend or something like that. But it's like
Mhm.
it's putting yourself in a situation that you know I guess if you look at it from a simulation, like a society falls apart type thing. But like anyway, all that being said is that you put yourself in a situation where you're probably going to get shot with an airsoft gun and they hurt. It's
Yeah.
painful. And they do so in more of like a tactical, like team based thing. And the way they do the whole Milsim West thing is fun. Maybe we'll have to do Milsim West at some point, Tyler, and report back on it.
Hmm.
but it's all run by like the squad leaders are all former military,
Oh, for
which
sure.
is which is really interesting.
So I guess with Milsim, what I know you and I have, it was probably years when we spoke about this, but with Milsim, once you get shot, you're dead, right? Like you can't respawn, like you're dead. You're done, right?
I don't know the exact rules on it. I
Okay,
think
I don't
everybody's a
know,
little
but I
different.
think that's
There's
what
like
you meant.
medics you can respawn and all that stuff, but I think you have to have somebody like come get you or whatever. Maybe there's a timer or something, but
Okay.
yeah, you get back in it. Like
I only say that because
it's
I don't want
literally
to
like a
spend
video
that much
game. You like
money, and if I die in the first couple
yeah
minutes, I'm like I just wasted all that money.
yeah no you can get like revived it back in it, but it's like a video game, right?
For
If you're like a
sure.
real world video game, but you're getting shot, it
Oh,
hurts.
totally. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the point. Like that stress of like actually getting hit. I mean, once again, I would love to do like UTMs where it's like because it might have like something more similar to a bullet. And I heard that thing. It's like a hornet sting, man. It
Yeah,
hurts.
yeah. All right, we are like a half hour in. I think we're at the double name this episode.
I not gonna
I
lie. I
call
was gonna say why don't we could just end it here
yeah, I'm okay with that. We'll
and just be
just
like, hey, that means you just have to join us next week when we talk about concealed carry
yeah,
begins.
I'm cool with that.
So you got any dad advice then?
So my advice on this is when you have somebody who goes through a stressful situation like this, um, obviously it's going to be mentally difficult for them to get through it, and
For
people
sure.
handle the situation in different ways, and talk through it different ways. This was what I'm getting at. But in all situations, there's always things to learn from other people.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that applies to, hey, your door just got kicked in at night. What did you do and how did you react and what happened?
Yeah.
And what do you think that you could have done to improve? But that also can apply to a bunch of other things in your life. We like to think um, that we are like the player character in our story, and we are, right? But then like sometimes we're the NPC to other people's story too. But realistically, we're all player characters, and we all have wisdom to impart upon from our experiences onto other people. So don't necessarily poo poo somebody's view on life just because it's different than yours. They have a different experience, different things they've gone through. Even if you don't agree with them, there's still an opportunity to learn from them.
For sure.
So that is my dad advice.
That's
How about you,
awesome, man.
Tyler?
So, before I can get into my dad advice, I'll give some context. So, earlier I mentioned in the episode that I spent a lot of money on guns and plants. So, I'm a very big plant guy. And recently, for plant people who know, which truthfully, most of you listening to this probably aren't plant people, but for those who do, would very much appreciate this. I bought a couple of Monstera Thai constellations recently from Facebook Marketplace. It's a it's a more rare variety of a Monstera plant. It doesn't really matter, but I bought two of them, and one of them I have nicknamed Rehab because I got it for like half price, but it had a bunch of burnt leaves and it was kind of shriveled up in some areas, and the owner said they left it out in the sun for too long and it got crispy, and that's why they sold it to me for like 15 bucks when they could have sold it to me for really 30. She was selling for 35, but these plants could have been sold for like 50 to $70 a piece, and they're
Wow.
small. Yeah, I know plants are expensive, man, in some areas. So today, as I was sitting in my plant room, I guess, it's kind of like my reading area, but it's surrounded by plants. I noticed in the light that there are a couple of burn spots on the leaves. And I thought to myself, man, like, why is that? I could have easily tried to move the plant more, water it more. But then I thought to myself, no, what I really need to do is actually get to the root of it. So I took the plant out of its pot and I took it out of it, I cleaned it up, and I noticed that there's some root rot in there, and the pot was actually too big for the root for the plant. So after I cleaned it up, I put in better soil, I disinfected the roots, put in new soil and put it in a better pot, and now I'm very confident this plant is going to thrive now. Why? Because I got to the root of the problem. I got down deep when I could have easily tried to do other things, whether it's watering it more, cutting off the burnt leaves, trying to see the fruit of it. But until you can You can only fix something when you get to the root of the issue. So whatever issue or whatever you're going through, what at its deepest level, what is it? Is it, are you a people pleaser? It's probably because you're afraid of people rejecting you. Where is that coming from? Are you, or whatever issues? And now I'm projecting at this point because I'm a natural people pleaser because I had crap going on in my life growing up. And because of that, I'm terrified of rejection. I'm terrified of abandonment. So, what is my root for that? So, all that to say, get to the root of it.
And sometimes, Tyler, you have to get your hands dirty to get to the root of the problem.
It's so true, man. It was nasty, dude.
look at
It
us, look at us going deep. Actually, you're the one that went deep. I just added the dirt to it.
it's
I just
nasty,
piled
man.
the dirt
I
in.
will admit, I've had some plants where I had to because I knew that it was definitely getting root rot. It stank bad. It was just I've killed my fair share of plants because I tried to quote unquote love it too much because I was like, no, it needs water, no, it needs more sun, no, it needs that. It's like, no, sometimes you just gotta leave it alone, let it do its thing, let it naturally grow. So yeah, all that
You
to
need a
say, hey,
you need a
I
dog.
might I might need you to take a look at my plants while I'm gone. By the way,
That's
so
fine. I'll send Maria over there.
I that was actually yeah. It would be more just keep. It might be more to keep an just to make sure they're okay. I know I'm only gone for not even a week, but it's just I do have a unfortunately because this hobby is becoming more expensive than I was ever planning. I bought a couple monster albos a couple days ago as well, and looking back, I probably should have reserved it and said, "Hey, I'll put a deposit down. And I'll pick up the plant later." Because I bought it for it was okay amount, but like these plants, oddly enough, can get up to like $500-600. So
That's
I
crazy.
promise I did not pay it. I paid like $50, but still, yeah. So
You're gonna be a plant dealer, like, and not like weed,
yeah,
because
I know, right, dude.
like
I've got
like
like
I can see you like on the corner down like on the corner and like trying to sell something to somebody. Now, granted, unfortunately, weed is legal in Michigan, but
yeah,
they get like you've got like a plant and like you like pull back your like trench coat, you got like a plant in there,
I
and
know,
you're
right? I mean,
like how
it's
much you
it's
want?
a
How much you
thing.
want for this monstera?
I've given away a couple plants now. I've given away a
Yeah, that's right.
few.
The first one's free, man. After that,
That's
you got to
true.
pay.
And then I have a couple propagations right now that I know I can sell. It's funny because your wife and I actually were talking about that on Wednesday, I think. How because she says she has a bunch of propagations where she's like, I don't know what to do with it, Tyler. I'm like, I don't know. You could try Facebook Marketplace. Even if you sell it for $5 or whatever, it all adds up because these are plants you're not going to use or want. So why not?
Hey, and once you get to the root of the problem, and once you get that plant to propagate, then you can share the love with the rest of the people around you
It
because
is
you've
true.
taken care of the roots.
It is true
So
because nature heals.
that's
That
right.
I think that's another reason why I have so many plants because I love getting going on in nature. I mean that's basically what I did every day when I was in Hawaii. I hiked and went to the beach for lunch every day. So Michigan, I can do that in the summer and fall, but not so much in the winter. So at least I can kind of bring nature inside. So, but that's the episode for today. So do you have
Yeah.
any other thoughts, Phil, before we close
Well,
out?
I do. What should people do to keep in touch with us, Tyler?
Yeah. So you can reach out to us at our social media acceptable accuracy on
Uh,
Instagram,
yeah.
and you can also email us at acceptableaccuracy@gmail.com. You can also rate, comment, subscribe, like all the different things because I can't keep up with it. We thought about doing a video record today and
Yeah.
posting it on YouTube, but both of us are still sick. Well, the irony is I'm the one who got sick first, and then I gave it to him when we went to the USPSA
Yeah.
competition that we both tanked. That I was so sick to where I was like, dude, there's no way I can record. It was bad, man.
Sweet. Well, again, look for us video recording. I got to make the switch over to YouTube anyway for some stuff. Just with the way that Google is changing their how they handle podcasts. So until next time, when we actually talk about concealed carry positions and not downward facing dog,
Yeah.
we'll see you next week.
All
Thank
right.
you
See
everyone
you
for
next.
listening, and bye bye.
See you, everybody.